The White Fire of the Night Council. The Story of Ferb. Chapter 1, The Making of a Team. Deep inside the forest of Aang, stick and mud huts grew in size. The people of the Night tribe were becoming effective hunters. One hunter would stand out. This is his story. Ferb's father taught him discipline and skill from skinning and cooking trinu. A chef, not a hunter, his father thought his son should hunt and told him to get a team going before others do. He knew the current team was about done hunting. Ferb loved adventure and being a leader, but was slightly nervous of responsibility and didn't want people to go down on his watch. When Ferb started looking for his team, he looked for advice, and one of the current hunters named Memok told him about trust and skill. That's all you look for. He also suggested experience, which Ferb took as a job application, but Ferb thought his hunting days were over. Memok told him he feels a sense of purpose when he hunts. This won Ferb over and made him a part of the group. Memok told him to come back and get him when Ferb was done picking his people. That's when Ferb's friend Sult came by, overhearing the conversation. Sult said he wanted to join. Ferb doesn't take him seriously and says he never took him for the hunting type. Sult's manhood feels challenged. So ask him what do he mean. Sult, while very athletic, was more of a jokester, telling secrets of other members and jokes along with stories at night by bonfires. Ferb has been friends with Sult since they were infants. Sult says he needs to get out of the camp before he goes crazy. Ferb fires back that they're not running off to play. Sult assures him he's sincere. Ferb looks back at Memok working on wood for a fire and thinks about what he said recently. About trust, then tells Sult that he's in as long as he doesn't run his mouth about it to the camp. Then tells Sult to meet him back in this very place the same time tomorrow to prepare before walking off. Half of Ferb knew Sult would tell. He almost wanted him to. It would make things easier, he thought. He knew it was faster for recruits to come to him. He just didn't want to deal with pushback from others about already having a hunting group in place, even if they're older, or who he already had on his team. Ferb comes around Fo. Ferb is familiar with Fo but doesn't know her personally. Fo is always seen with her father carving and sharpening trinu bones into swords and spears. The very bone sword Ferb has comes from her. Fo is washing her wool cloak when Ferb approaches her. She says not interested. This lets Ferb knows that Sult ran his mouth. Ferb begins to let her know he admires her work. She let him know she was interested until she learned Sult was coming. She hates that he don't shut up and that he doesn't contribute. Ferb comforts her concern but says he trusts Sult and need her weapon knowledge. Fo agrees but says she will walk away if Sult endangers her. Ferb walks back and passes Losha, leaving the forest alone. Ferb talks about how he never hears Losha coming up behind him. He knows her parents and his gets along, so he feel he can trust her and wants to use her for recon. He's seen her with a sword and was impressed. Losha agreed, knowing guys were going to be there. Now Ferb is on his way to Hod. Hod taught him how to tame wolves. Hod is muscle and instinct. He hunted with his older brothers at a young age and fell in love with wolves. Ferb wanted someone on his team who even scared him. Hod feeds the wolves in the afternoon, so Ferb knew where he was. Hod throws Ferb some rabbit meat in a leaf, but warns him it's fresh and hot as he thanks him for dining with him. The wolves look up and wait for Hod to feed them. Ferb thanks him for the meat but let him know he's not there for the food. He asks him how he feels about the current hunters. Hod says if it wasn't suicidal he would bring back more meat than they bring by himself. Ferb says what about with him? Hod says who else is going? When Ferb tells him, Hod says he'll join if a little bit more muscle is on the team. Ferb says see you in the morning. Ferb says things while thinking I thought you were the last recruit. Later that night Ferb heads to his tent and talks to his father, who gazes at the stars. He tells him about an additional teammate dilemma. That's when his dad suggested the girl whose tent is near the mud wall perimeter. Ferb says no one lives near the wall ever since something in the woods started snatching people. Only one person saw it. They call it the Speechless. His father agrees and says the girl lives near it because her family was taken by it. He said I bet she's muscle. Ferb considered it and after dinner decided to go and pay her a visit. While took back a bit by how isolated the tent was. Ferb called her name while standing in front of her tent, Tumlaw. She came out 1 full minute later asking if he too came to mock her for being so close to the dark. Ferb assures her he's not. Ferb says he's sorry about her family and what took them. I wait for it to take me so I can take it. She says this as she looks at her bone sword. He said he never seen it. She says they call it the speechless. I wonder if that's because they never heard it scream. Ferb asks if she wants to join his group for dinner stock, but Tumla declines. He says he's sure they'll run into it faster out there, which makes her reconsider. Now that Ferb felt he had his team, he slept. In the morning everyone meets at Menok's tent. Chapter 2, Learning to Trust. The vibe of the group went over well other than Fo's slightly being annoyed by Sult's talking. Out of nowhere someone yells, "Lo Sha." It's Losha's brother Logal. Lo Sha looks at Ferb and hands signals that she's not with him. Ferb wants to help her but signals back, pointing at the sun and the trees, indicating he has no time for games. Logal finally meets up. He ghosts the rest of the crew, not even making eye contact, looking at Lo Sha. "What's this I learn of you as a hunter?" He says. Lo Sha tells him the tribes needs new blood and that the old guard is finished. They just don't know it yet. Logal implies Lo Sha never had contact with danger. Ferb says he trusts his decision to recruit her. Logal says, "Do you and our parents trust this decision?" Ferb, feeling he has a point, counters with the fact that they aren't running around tents with cotton toys anymore. Ferb looks around at his team displeased with the drama show but knows he needs Lo Sha. Logal says if she goes he goes. Ferb agrees but tells him one thing. Ferb tells Logal, "If it's between you and death, you will be prey, not the Trinu." Logal says it won't. As Ferb and Menok gather up things and Logal walks off with Lo Sha, the other members do a last-minute check. Menok asks Ferb if he's sure about bringing this type of dynamic to the team. Brother-sister rivalry. Menok lets him know he has a sister that he would poison the whole tribe just to get back at. Ferb knows his humor has a bit of truth to it. He informs Menok they now know what they're up against. He tells him this gives them an edge. The only other person that can move as fast as her can't keep his mouth shut. Besides, Logal is more muscle than I planned, says Ferb. Menok says, "I will trust you." Ferb also can sense what he really meant to say was, "But I don't trust them." Ferb gets the group together and let them know of their roles. Tumlaw and Hud are pairs. Fo and Logal are a pair. Both Loghal and Fo look at each other. Barely meeting, they look to see who they're forced to trust. Logal, moreover, knowing he already put the team at unease, doesn't voice being separated from his sister. Ferb then says Menok is with Lo Sha and Sult, "You're with me." Everyone is responsible for carrying meat they get. He runs over the territory where the most Trinu are. He tells everyone to stay away from Shadowfoot. That to stay straight so not to be too far from each other. And that eventually after this test run there is new territory Menok told him about that they think should be good, that the group would go as whole exploring. Everyone agrees to their new assignment. Weapons ready. Food supply minimal as they only plan to be gone a week. They head out. Only their loved ones from the tribe knows of their departure as not to get pushed back from the families of the current hunting team. Menok and Lo Sha. Menok and Lo Sha walks through the forest. Menok breathes through the brush and twigs like in his tent back home before he notices Lo Sha behind him walking slowly. "We'll never make it to the tree new like this," he says. Lo Sha lets him know she listens to the woods. It helps her understand where she's at. Menok points out that before Ferb she never been this far out. So how come she know exactly where she's at? Lo Sha tells him she just feels it. She doesn't feel any negativity from the older man, just an age gap difference is their thought. Menok tells her the Trinu are very territorial and have a head but that can crush a skull. They're big but it's better than bird or rabbit meat. She says she should know as her father makes her cook it. Menok can tell just like his daughter understanding Lo Sha might be challenging. Ferb and Sult. Ferb and Sult have their swords out walking. As a natural hunter, Ferb makes sure not to step on anything too loud. Sult asks him why he's walking weird and Ferb tells him. Sult kinda looking up to Ferb but not letting him know begins to mimic his movement. Ferb notices and asks if he's sincere or mocking him. Sult cleverly responds with, "So you think this looks silly too?" It gets Ferb to laugh for a second. Sult tells him he misses them playing and laughing. Ferb agrees but reminds Sult that life sometimes means to leave certain things behind. After mocking Ferb, Sult says part of the reason he wanted to get out of the tribe was because he no longer had a partner in crime. Ferb knows he means him ever since his father made Ferb care more about being head of house, cooking meat. Sword fighting and Wonder King the woods more, though not alone. Ferb no longer felt he had time to chat around fires or play with sticks and fantasize about the women. A small bit of quiet fills between the two before Ferb changes subject, saying he forgot to say something. I almost forgot, he says with excitement. Trinu struggles walking backwards. That will make good for cornering them. Salt, knowing Ferb doesn't feel to discuss further his last comment, plays along and says, interesting. Tumlo and Hod. Hod walks at ease with his axe on his back every now and then, feeling the trees, looking forward. Tumla postures almost tensely while gazing onward with 2 bone swords on her back and 2 bone daggers on her animal belt. Hod breaks the silence filled by trees and birds, asking if they've seen each other before. I'm not sure we met before, Tumlo says. They haven't, because people see her as someone to fear, even if fear is what created her. Hod doesn't understand. As they walk over giant logs probably put there by storms, after learning her story he apologizes. Tumla says she's here for revenge, not pity. Hod apologizes like a gentleman but likes her edge. Fo and Logal. Fo walks behind Logal, studying him. Most of the time they don't talk or make eye contact. Fo inquires about his weapon not being sharpened. He says it's because he carves wood with it. She says the reason why we wear their skin is because it's thick. Unsharpened blades won't cut deep to the meat. He says I'll bring my share back. Fo replies by saying, but it won't stop a Trinu from stampeding my way. She says this as she walks in front of him and stops haunting his path. She reaches in her back and hands Logal one of her 2 swords and says, take this, I sharpened it last night. Before Logal takes it he looks at it, then her, and asks, make it make sense. You obviously don't like nor trust me, yet you're giving me something I could kill you with? Fo stabs the blade into the grass and says, I'm saving myself from your negligence. And trust me, you can't kill me. She says as her eyes narrow. Fo turns her back and walks away, after looking at his blade and then hers. Logal drops his blade and grabs hers. He runs after her with the blade and swings. Without looking back, Fo bends over, missing the blade, and kicks Logal, pushing him back off his feet. Fo waits for the blade to drop to turn around and draw her own sword. She walks slowly to him and says threateningly, I'll kill you before Ferb does. Don't do that again, comma. With slight heavy breathing, Logal says, I was just making sure. You're not the only one who doesn't trust, you know. Looking annoyed but still pumped, Fo resends her blade and offers her hand as she puts her blade back in her back pouch. Menok continues to walk without a care until he gets a hand signal from Losha to stop. He almost didn't see it but finally lowers himself. What you see? He asks as he slowly makes his way to her side from behind her. Losha points to a Trinu eating branches up ahead. Menok gives out the war cry. Trinu can't hear high-pitched sounds. Tumla is the first to hear it. Once Hod hears, they both take off for Losha's position. This alerts Ferb and Sult, who follows. Fo and Logal sees the Trinu before they hear the cry. Logal thinks it's time to pull his sword out until Fo whispers not to. She says we're supposed to block when it runs away. Just stay and trust in the team to do the rest. Once Ferb, Sult, Tumla, and Hod meets up with Losha and Menok, Ferb asks where was Fo and Logal. He war cries just to hear them on the other side of the plain behind the Trinu war crying back to him. Ferb is elated as this fits his plan. Everyone draws their swords. Ferb runs out to get the best attention. Ferb makes low noises which catches the animal's attention. As he does this, the rest of the team moves to its side from far away and starts to move closer, swords drawn. The Trinu dips its head to the ground, kicking up rock and grass while bending in its front right leg. This is a fight position that lets others know the Trinu is mad. Ferb waves his sword and says, stay with me, slowly to himself. Out of nowhere, Hod jumps on its back, stabbing it. Losha runs up, sliding under it, stabbing its guts. Menok cuts at its back leg along with Sult and Tumla jumping from a tree, stabbing hard in its side stomach. The Trinu lets out an unearthly cry and moves its back and head opposite each other as it shakes everyone off it. Losha is almost stepped on and Hod is thrown off. Sult and Menok steps back. The Trinu, feeling outnumbered, runs away with Tumla dragging with it, knocking against the brush and tree logs. Ferb yells for her, at the same time he's amazed by its speed. The Trinu never even sees Fo and Logal waiting on the side, but Tum Law does and let go of her blade stuck in it. The Trinu looks back, noticing she freed herself. Once it returns to look forward, Logal and Fo stick their swords out from the left and right of the tree by slicing its throat as it runs by. The Trinu makes one last sound as it drop and roll over, only stopping after 6 rotations. Ferb and the others running towards it can feel it drop. After congratulating everyone, they pull together the tree's sap oil rock pulley to carry it. They put it on a Trinu skin cloth with rocks attached that are oiled up by tree sap. This allows it to slide better, taking some of the weight away as they carry it. It's still heavy as they carry it back, but they're happy for success on their first day. It's about the size of a car. Hod and Tumlaw carries it with one hand and a sword out, in a way to show strength, but also for protection if need be. By night they make it back to camp, tired from dragging the Trinu. People are surprised they came back so early. Some congrats, while others wonder if they are being replaced. Family rejoice as Ferb's dad takes the Trinu. Lo Sha sees someone in the crowd turn and walk away. Lo Sha goes after them. Later Logal notices she's gone and go looking for her. Lo Sha sees a woman sewing a Trinu cloak, soundly upset. Is the hour dark both and day and heart, says Lo Sha. The lady says, the night rejoice as the heart should. Lo Sha walks over and take her hand, saying, the heart does what it wants. The lady looks up at Lo Sha while saying, in the dark, yes. Lo Sha says the heart fails if they knew. The girl looks at her and says the heart fades if they don't. A tear comes down her eye as Lo Sha gets up and walk away. She looks back and says, Listel? Listel doesn't look back, which made Lo Sha drop her head and leave. Lo Sha runs into her brother on her way to her tent. Who is this man that steals your heart? He says. Why say it's a man, who else could steal your time of glory? Lo Sha walks past her brother while saying, I assure you your pack with our father is safe. He promises their father to protect her before he died. Days later Salt asks Ferb when is the next tour. Ferb says soon. Says he wants to hit up Skyland, open flat land before the volcano mountains. Ferb wants to get more than one Trinu and knows they herd over there. Don't worry, we won't hit up Shadowfoot. Salt says that's at least a month of being gone, indicating how far away it is. Ferb reminds him he said they aren't playing, remember? Later on when he tells Menok warns of Crayful's story, also saying they should practice more in the forest with one instead of taking on 30 of them at a time. Ferb believes the team is ready. Tumlaw walks up to Fo, picking flowers for her soup. I heard you can sharpen even the most stubborn of blade? Says Tumlaw. This is truth, says Fo. I need one. Our next tour is the Sky Fields and I could use a do-over. Fo says that won't bring them back. My pardon, says Tumlaw, getting tense. Fo says I know the pain that rules you. You know of blades, not pain. It will end you just as it did Crayful's. If the answer is no, mercy me your concerns, says Tumlaw. While still picking flowers, Fo says, blades shall reflect the sun by morning. Tumlaw drops the swords and leaves after saying thank you. By the morning Ferb has everyone meet him in secret by a creek to discuss the next trip. Salt is the last to show up to the meeting. Fo chastises him for this. Salt hands everyone berries and wheat and says I was prepping breakfast. Ferb makes everyone take it to be nice. Tumlaw throws hers out when no one looks. As they hear the plan they disagree with how close it is to Crayful's, where he died. Ferb says that's why the others don't go, but it has the most Trinu. Logal says, and what about them ganging up on us? Ferb said we'll hunt at night. This doesn't go over well with the crowd. Fo protests soft but firmly. There is too much to control for. Tumlaw says it's a good idea. Knowing she's talking about the speechless, Fo says of course. Ferb reminds them that the old guard is wanting them to fail and not to join them. In that thinking, the team reluctantly agrees. Ferb tell them to pack, well they will be gone a month. Lo Sha feels she should see Listel before she goes. Lo Sha finds Listel with the wolves. Listel was soft and kind-hearted and the wolves loved this. They can sense your kind heart just as I can, says Lo Sha. They freely express it as well, says Listel. My whereabouts upsets you, do they not? Ask Lo Sha. Until my spark for you dems, yes. Not even god magic can stop my heart beating for you. And the woods, if you ask of me they'll miss me, I ask of your heart and see the forest. Do you not come to me fearing an end? I know of your next expedition. Lo Sha says I can't wish my love for you gone. Listel walks up to her. Lo-Sha is in trance of Listel's orbit, unable to gaze away. Listel kisses her. Both women's eyes close for a brief second. When they open, Listel says, "Though I fear your absence. Feeling you gone when you're here hurts most. Your path and mine's are separate for now. But I have decided. If shadow is where you decide to keep your heart, when you come back, seek my hand no more." Lo-Sha sees the sincerity in Listel's eyes and walks away, not knowing that Logal was in the distance watching everything. Chapter 3, What is the White Heat? Salt has a few laughs with a couple of friends that don't particularly upkeep themselves, but shares Salt's banter and inquiries of others. They learn that Salt won't be coming back for a month and ponder jokingly if it's a part of Ferb's plan to keep Salt from the rest of the camp. Salt cleverly says he'll miss them too. One mumbles under his breath something. Salt asks him to brave his words. They say that Ferb never truly respected him and don't know why he's going with him anyway. Salt defends his friends, saying the friend should stop his tongue with madness. They point out that Ferb jokes about being stronger and smarter than him, and what kind of true friend is that? Salt tells them that they're dreaming, but on the inside his insecurities were screaming that they were right. It bothered him, the jokes, but he never really gave those feelings a shine of light. In the back of his mind he wished to know if Ferb really thought this of him. If not, then why joke about it often? On the day of the trip, everyone again meets up at Menoke's tent before leaving. This time the plan is to scare most Trinu away and corner a few. Hod says he wants to try out his new sword spear. With both tips of the bones sharpened by foe, Salt says they'll bring back so much meat the camp will not know what bird and rabbit meat is. They head out before breakfast so they can get ahead of the day. Eating breakfast while walking, Menoke thinks about what he'll do when he finally puts down his sword. Foe says she'll never give hers up, that to bury her with it. Hod seconds her sentiment. Ferb philosophies about their overall purpose of being able to not having to hunt. About laying the foundation for their children not to hunt. Lo-Sha says that was beautifully worded. Tumlaw says she'll never have children. Salt jokes that she can never say never. As night falls, they camp near a tree with a bit of overhang. Ferb figures this would create an illumination of camouflage if any predators were to stumble onto them. The nights are cold, yes, but their Trinu cloaks, at this particular season, gives them enough heat at night. Ferb checks the forest for a bit before returning to the tree to sleep. Lo-Sha goes with him while the others set up and secure their belongings. Lo-Sha is finally along with Ferb. Sure, she could have gotten a one-on-one back at camp, but people would stare, and Lo-Sha is more of an introvert than Ferb. Lo-Sha looks up to Ferb. If Lo-Sha was into men, Ferb would be the perfect suitor for her. Lo-Sha begins to inquire how men deal with women in hopes to get advice about her current situation. While not at first but eventually, Ferb misunderstands this as her flirting with him. "So may I understand, why thy not wed another," says Lo-Sha. Ferb says he's definitely thought about it, but what they're doing seemed to be more important to him. That he used to hear his father and uncles talk about the stories of Klar and the gods, and it made him want to be something to talk about. That it meant so much to him, plus he loves his people. Lo-Sha is again drawn in by his words. "I can deeply respect this," says Lo-Sha. Ferb, through his own hubris, continues. "If I may say, I thank the gods I was able to pull this group together so fast, or maybe it's in my very nature to lead." Lo-Sha ponders about this. A man decides and a woman follows? Feeling a bit awkward as what he wanted to say was not received, Ferb corrects. "Not necessary," says Ferb. "A woman can decide her destiny as well." Lo-Sha looks at the stars while Ferb looks around the forest. "And if her destiny takes her from her love?" Ferb says destiny will never take you away from your heart, only to it. Lo-Sha, in a more serious but not threatening tone, asks Ferb, "Have you ever been afraid of your heart?" Ferb says never. "If I was, I couldn't protect, smile, or learn." Lo-Sha replies with, "I agree," and nods, though to no except what she must do, even with what she fear might happen. After this she wishes to end their talk with a compliment, as to thank Ferb for what he not know he helped with. "I can now see it, so much wisdom and modesty, I'd follow you to the end." Ferb begins to feel shy and nervous and starts to tell Lo-Sha he's flattered but don't think he should wed a fellow teammate. Lo-Sha, picking up on this quickly, wants to reassure him there's no feelings for him. I'm sorry, I did not tend to mislead. These feelings are for another, says Lo-Sha. Ferb, feeling relief, says, it's fine. Maybe we should head back to the team, desperately wanting to do away with the moment. Lo-Sha agrees. A week later. Hod is in front of the group testing his sword spear. He's taking to how it sounds swing against the wind. Tumlaw eats on a bit of bird meat behind him as not to get caught in the blade. They are close to the edge of the forest. Ferb tells them they are but an hour walk away from Sky Fields. Salt asks him how he knows. Ferb says because there's a wind thrust picking up, which means up further there's no significant tree blockage. Logal says, it's midday. I heard we'll hunt at night. Ferb lets him and the others know that they will set up and wait till night. The plan is simple. Half the team, like last time, creates a diversion and let most of the Trinu chase them. The other half rides a couple and with Foe's skills use the blades to stab them in the brain. Foe still feels unease by this plan, makes an unsettling but short sound when her name is mentioned. Ferb selects Tumlaw, Lo-Sha, himself and Salt to be part of the diversion this time. Foe, Hod, Logal and Menok are the main show. Ferb points to a huge rock-like log and says everyone meets back here when done, no matter the success or failure of the mission. It's next to the forest where we can retreat and provides a shield in case chased by a stampede. Tumlaw goes to the top of a tree and camps. Hod is mid-tree to convey to Ferb the position of the herd. There's a herd of at least 20 not too far out. Seems like they'll be calming soon. Perhaps to sleep when the sun leaves. Ferb is nerved but pleased with this. A little bit of pressure because of the risk, but reward is worth it. With but an hour left till dark, half the team moves out. The war cry will be the signal everyone is in position. Hod and the rest crawl in the open field grass slowly hours after the night came in. Lo-Sha and her team did this as the night arrived to set up position. The buzzing of the insects. Cool breeze and only sounds of the Trinu breathing fills the air. Salt and Lo-Sha are closer to the Trinu. No low talking because the Trinu can easily pick it up. Though they can't hear the high-pitched war cry, they will feel the vibration from the team's mouth, once said. Ferb signals Salt and Lo-Sha to move further to the left and he and Tumlaw go to the right, making it easier to break the herd up. They war cry before they are close enough to startle the herd. This lets Hod knows. They stop and prep their weapons for battle. Lo-Sha, being the lightest on her feet, accidentally gets right up under one who is bigger than the rest. This one sleeps to himself slightly separate from the crowd. Lo-Sha, after learning of her error, doesn't move. She figures this is a male if he is this far away. He is the protector, as she refer in her head to the conversation her and Ferb had. At this point hand signaling is too risky, and though Ferb knows the area all his team is in, he doesn't know exactly where everyone is. Fireflies seem to come out at this time and fly through the crowd. Some land on the Trinu, others flies around them. Are not wakened by this. Ferb tightens his jaw a bit, not knowing of such event, but can signal a retreat of new plan at this time. Lo-Sha breathes slow as not to wake the Trinu she's under, but is fascinated by the fireflies. Their contrast in the darks distracts her. Not enough to wake the Trinu, but enough to take her focus off the herd. 2 fireflies lay on her hand. She looks at them admirably. They redirect themselves on her knuckle. Out of nowhere a spark silhouettes her hand. Her head jumps slightly as she's confused. What magic do these tiny creatures possess? The spark happens again. Ferb is alerted to where Lo-Sha is now, but confused. What is she doing, he thinks in a panic. The third spark is what derails this expedition. Even Hod from far away sees the light. The third spark lights Lo-Sha completely and lifts her slightly, but enough to throw the Trinu she's under to its side, waking the others and scaring the fireflies away. Ferb and Tumlaw widen their eyes. Lo-Sha is completely engulfed in white and the Trinu awake with loud roars. But they are scared of the light. For the Night Tribe people will later call this power the White Flare. The stampede barrels its way towards Tumlaw, Salt and Ferb. Feeling that they are made, they all get up and run. Lo-Sha reaches out to them as if to suggest not to when she sees her are in pure light and starts to look quickly at the rest of her body. Logal jumps up and runs toward the light, screaming Lo-Sha's name. Hod and Foe follows after with Menok behind. Tumlaw and Salt are together running, discarding remaining gear with on swords in hand. Ferb is to the side, wanting to but not daring to look back. The night holds the horizon from sight. The sound of the tree new behind them increases, letting them know a faster pace or different strategy is needed for safety. Ferb decides to look back for a second and then, with only adrenaline and not confidence, grabs the horn of one of the tree new, lifting himself on top. Salt scream, "Wish I thought of that," when he decides to gaze back. Ferb steers the tree new slightly towards Salt and yells, "Jump now." Salt ditches his sword to get more momentum and jumps to Ferb's arm, reaching for him. In one thrust, Ferb throws Salt to the back and Salt struggles but manages to find grip and hold on to Ferb. Ferb makes his way to Tumlaw, who has a tree new extremely close. A slight mistake by Tumlaw and she's with her family immediately. Ferb calls to her and she looks, but doesn't take his arm. Instead his advice, and jumps to the tree new to her side to advice, being speared in the back. Ferb resends his arm and now thinks to go back for Lo Sha. Foe runs into the tree new that felt over by Lo Sha, and now both perceives the other to be in each other's way. The tree new stops and with its horns lifts up the dirt, giving its battle stance. Hod redirects himself to her while Menok and Logal runs further. Foe grabs both swords and prep for battle. Hod is not too far away. The tree new runs into her and she spins with both blades like a tornado, cutting at the tree new. Lo Sha was right, this is a protective tree new, because as it frees itself of Foe it turns around ready to stampede again. Foe readies herself as Hod approaches. The tree new runs again, this time slightly knocking into Foe as she spins. But Hod with his spear blade stabs the tree new in the top of its head, lifting himself in the air as it runs towards him. On his way to the other side, Hod yanks at his spear, removing it from the tree new. It falls to the ground before it can let out its last cry. Logal makes it to his sister but slows himself. Lo Sha is still in white flare fire. "What is this, brother? I'm scared," says Lo Sha with tears. Not sure what to say, Logal says calmly, "It's okay now. You're not hurt, are you?" Lo Sha displays her hands around her entire body and says, "I not know." Menok shows up only to say, "As I ask the gods what my eyes see, I fear." By this time Ferb shows up with Salt and Tumlaw behind them. The white flare goes away and the night comes back to the faces of all. Ferb is the first without fear to get next to Lo Sha. "Are you okay?" he asks. She explains what happened. Salt with a joke say, "Well, we just lost our catch of the day." Hod breaks through the group and says not to speak so soon, but that Foe is hurt. Logal not knows this and asks Hod to repeat himself. Ferb tells him to look after his sister as he checks. Foe's arm is banged up as Ferb approaches, but she says, "Nothing, rest can't improve." Ferb looks at the tree new later close by with Hod's spear in its head. Feeling that Foe is not badly injured, Ferb congrats her and Hod for the kill and that it's twice the size of the last one. Foe reminds him that it means they have to drag it without her further back to camp. He lets her know it's a cost he'll bear for her safety. She asked him what happened. Ferb says, "If I knew, we would have more than one tree new lying dead." Logal holds his sister, but Tumlaw says that she has god powers and not to get so close. Logal looks up at her with great anger. "Family never abandon family, remember," says Logal. Feeling hurt, Tumlaw understood and says nothing, looking away slightly. "While not a success, not a complete failure," says Ferb as they get the bowl ready for transport. As they walk back, Salt says it's the fireflies. Tumlaw looks at him. He repeats himself. "It was the fireflies I saw. You said it was the gods." Tumlaw says, "The bone blade woman, words are wise of you. You do have more words than knowledge to share." As they set up camp, Foe preps flower medicine with Ferb for her arm. Salt walks up to see if she has a spare blade after he ditched his. Before she answers, Ferb throws his blade to Salt and says, "Take mines." He pull out a half-bone sword, as Salt catches it. Ferb says, "I'm more up close in person anyways," while smirking. Feeling his manhood questioned, Salt says, "Let me have the smaller blade, I'm lighter and faster than you." Ferb holster it and says, "Lighter, yes." Salt walks off while saying, "My dear leader." Ferb helps Foe put medicine on her arm. And then in a sling, Fo looks at Ferb while he's not looking and then look back at her arm. When he turns around indicating that she thinks he's in error and need of advice, "You must see your way, twist the manner with salt." Ferb looks at her weird. "What you speak of?" Fo lets Ferb know not to joke about such things to the reply of, "We joke all the time." Fo says yes, but as you yourself should know, the path to manhood is sacred. Salt takes your tongue as dagger because he looks up to you. Ferb says, "I will seek truth of this," before helping her to rest. As he puts her skin cloak over her, she asks, "What do you think happened to Losha today?" Ferb looks across the camp at Losha talking to her brother and says, "Fog fills my mind with reason, eyes of trickery perhaps." Fo says that maybe Tumlaw is right. Maybe this is of the gods' doing. Ferb clenches his jaw and turns back saying, "Rest up, friend." Logal feeds twigs to the fire while talking to his sister. "Dazed and amazed I am. Father's pack is alive and well," she says back. Logal breaks glance from the fire and says, "Sister is alive but sister is not well. Sister bear many secrets." Losha explains she doesn't know what happened. Perhaps the gods favors the tree new over them, or the lands themselves are cursed. Logal says while he's glad she's safe, he do not believe his eyes of many things. Moon magic or kisses. Losha now breaks her gaze of the fire. Logal knows this and speaks passionately. "This way is unknown to me. How do I protect?" Losha says, "It is not a summer's eve for me, I am too but without guide. They'll reject you. Our people's curiosity remains none, frightful we are." Losha says nothing for a second. She looks to her brother, "I know your trust in me is weak. It's of these words you speak I dare not confide to you." Logal looks back at the fire. "Father's blood stained my hands the day he died. Where were the gods that day and why they choose to bear witness today?" He says as he sheds a tear. Losha sheds one as well. Logal whips the tears from his eyes and says, "While poor taste to you, father's pack I cherish." Losha tells him, "I wanted to go to you. I cherish as well, poor taste you see in me my love of another woman." Logal says before preparing for sleep, "I have no answers as father. Only confusion as brother, but as stated before, family never leaves family." Till the day rise as he puts out the fire. Chapter 4, The Understanding. 1 week later, again by nightfall, they make their way back to camp. Slightly tired but more energy than last time with the knights. They sleep on the way back. Still with looks, people notice Ferb's return. An elder lady says to him, "This one's godlike in size," to which Ferb thanks her. One of the older generation hunters remarks he remembers Ferb saying he'll return with more than one Trinu. Ferb replies with, "Stick around, I'm full of surprises," while tapping his bone sword. Handing off to his father the Trinu, Salt with bad intentions whispers to Ferb to divulge to the camp what happened. Fo tells him not to press, but Salt makes a challenging statement about leadership to Ferb. "I differ from you with truth as a leader would." Ferb glances at him before making a decision. Ferb gathers the crowd against Fo's advice. He tells about Losha. Salt echoes his words. The people are frightened at the story. Losha sees Listel in the crowd. Listel looks scared. Losha decides to reveal her love of Listel to slow her fears. "I can't say what magic lies beneath, but a heart to cork a worry speech. If thy allow to teach," says Losha. Losha walks through the crowd up to Listel. She kisses her to sighs. And shock, Logal tightens and Salt smiles. A man from the crowd yells out, "Demon." This causes a mob chant to grow. A man from the crowd swings a sword at her. Ferb turns white, blocking the blade with his sword, and in seconds everyone with a sword turns white as well. The sword clash and demon chant stopped. All are shocked. With heavy breathing, Ferb says if she's a demon, then we're all demons. Logal asks, "What are we in fear, Hod?" Looking at his spear says, "We're gods." Menok says, "We don't live like gods." Then a woman cloaked in wool named Suma walks up, the great-great-great-granddaughter to the only person to see Alia. Says this is a gift from our creator, not a curse. Losha looks at Listel while in white flame. Listel, knowing not to be afraid, caress Losha's face through the white flame. "Instead of fearing this, we should seek further its potential," says the tribe witch. Ferb puts his blade back and the white flame leaves. Menok does the same and his leaves. While staring at her white flame, Tumla says, "What have the gods done, and what will I do?" before balling her fist, thinking of the speechless. Suma lets them know during a fight. Protecting self or loved ones seems to activate white flame. One of the old generation hunters says this suggests replacement is needed. One of the others says some replacement while looking at Salt. Foe says using this power to hunt when we just learned it is malpractice and short-sighted. Ferb walks up to the older generation man still in flame and says Foe is right. For all we know we could burn the woods down. The older generation man says Ferb is still thinking to replace him and that he doesn't take orders. Then he says, with this power I think we should hunt in the southern forest. Ferb says we don't hunt in that direction because we don't know what it leads to or what dangers await us. The older generation hunter says, with this power we could explore it. This is mad, says Ferb. The older generation hunter says, if you want me to stay then make me. Ferb, knowing he would split the camp up, says to at least have foes sharpen their blades before leaving. That she's the best in the camp. The elder man says he'll be fine. That he's been hunting since Ferb was born. May your wisdom heed you, while Ferb says this as advice, and a warning, and walk away. Lo Sha looks at Listel as she comes out of flame. No more of without. No more veils, she says as she moves her hand softly up Listel's shoulder. Listel breathes in deep and closes her eyes for a second. This moment takes my breath almost as your lips. I've dreamt of this but never knew, and a new look I might add is a bit of a twist. Foe says things are new for her too, but new days are marked from here. This may delay but some may still object, says Logal as he walks by. Hod walks with Tumla as they both discuss this new power. Hod, I know this would be of my very wish. And it is. But still to take in what this means. I request more time of myself, Tumla says. The woman who speaks of things I will seek further knowledge, she continues. In the morning Ferb wakes to his mother making soup. I wasn't sure if your cloak would catch blaze inside the camp, says his mother as she breaks off leaves to roast. Ferb smiles of her motherly concerns. This is all new to me. I would leave it before you, mother. Would everyone decide this? Before the hour of chaos, she says, thinking about the discussion with the older gen. Ferb gets up and ready himself for the day. Not even the fool of fools would scutter such a gift, says Ferb as he kisses his mother's forehead and leaves the tent. Eventually Ferb learns that the older generation hunters left for the southern forest in the wee hours of the morning, before the sun rised. Ferb is shocked at the speed in which the old guard meant what they said last night. If they bring with them unwelcomeness to these lands, we should prep, he says as he walks over to Foe's tent. As the day turns mid, the old guard comes back with one of their own badly wounded. People run up to them hysterically. What of this? Is she all right? The old hunters looks panic. She tried to stop a tree branch from falling on her with white flame. Nothing happened. I don't understand. The elderly women rushes to the aid of the woman with spells and herbs, hoping to heal. Ferb steps out of his tent to ongoers passing him. You filth of a man, he curses as he fears the worst. He walks up to see Losha's mother Alawa badly wounded. Salt runs up asking what's wrong. Ferb says to him, can you do me a favor? Salt says sure. Ferb asks him to keep Losha and if possible Logal away. Salt nods his head and goes looking for brother and sister. The older hunters say to another, here, keep pressure on the cut. Ferb looks at him with anger before returning to looking at Alawa. She speaks. I wasn't sure if it works. Tell my children I'll be with their father shortly. Ferb tells her to quit with her tongue. She shakes her head and looks at the old hunters. You did your best to lead. The decision is mine, as she sheds one tear. And after a few short breaths Alawa's eyes stay still. Ferb looks in panic. Alawa. Shaking her jaw and pushing up against her, Alawa. He then screams for a healer. The old guard hunter steps back slowly crying. Ferb yells to him. Don't weep. Get help. Damn you. This snaps him back into to go get help. Losha breaks through the crowd. Mother, it's not you, it's not. Ferb looks up for Salt but he's nowhere to be found. Lo-Sha hugs her mother. I'm not well with this, please wake, she says as she sees her mother's face. Logel's not far behind with tears of anger. He walks up slowly. Lo-Sha. She's not going to wake. Stop this nonsense as tears fills his mouth and beard. Lo-Sha looks back and yells, and you this? You know of many things? Logel reaches his hand out. Come on Lo-Sha, let the healers do as needed. Lo-Sha looks back and says to her mother softly, I have someone to tell you about mother. She's as pretty as you mother. Tears fills her eyes as she says this. She holds my eye just as father held yours. Wake please, don't look at me like this, please wake. Cries Lo-Sha, and hold on to her with healers around her unpotched their medicines. Logel goes up to the old hunter and draw his blade. For your negligence my mother pays a price worthy of you. He says as he pushes him over a tent. The tent holds but buckles. Menok sees this but knows he can't hold Logel back and yells for Ferb. With his blade at the face of the old guard, Logel threatens him. Is your mother happy with you that you took mines? The old Gen replies, I plead better of hearts not of this. We were cursed without the white devil this morning, he says as he begs for his life. Suma walks up to him and says, the night is the gatekeeper of a mysterious strength it seems. Logel doesn't break gaze. Ferb comes up beside Logel not as if he's scared of him, but of what he could easily do before being stopped. He's worthy of worse than death from his actions but we decided not. Logel places the blade flush with the old guard's face still looking at him but talking to Ferb. Says the one still with his nurturer. Don't become of lesser minds I beg you friend, says Ferb. The word friend breaks Logel from bad deeds. Menok says to him, this is the exact time Lo-Sha needs you. Logel paws slowly. He resends his blade. More a friend to the likes of this. You are Ferb's. For now he is spared. Logel gets up and fixes himself before leaving. Ferb looks at Menok and without words thank him. The old guard speaks, breaking the moment Ferb and Menok has. Why have the gods forsaken us? Where was the white flame? Ferb looks with disdain at the old guard and lifts him back up. If you would have listened none of this would have happened. Suma says the gift of our creator comes at night, this is what ails you. Ferb thinks to himself the perfect time to call for an establishment of leadership in himself. Ferb walks to the center of the camp and yells to get the camp's attention. I'm sure by now everyone knows of the pain my fellow friend has taken in. I rather not bear what consumes her if I'm honest. Ferb looks at his parents in the distance before continuing. We have the knowledge to cease these ways, the burden of caring when not for ourselves. I'm not here to take but to give. He says looking at the old hunters, a hunter's temperament feeds his family. His children. Today it harmed them, in the name of the people. In the well-being of the camp, I move that all things affecting the camp in council go through my team and not the old guard, all but a few, that went out and some supporters cheered the motion. Foe thought it of ego not safety. Later Ferb talked with his father, when did we start speaking like gods? When those of us started acting like it. Cease these ways? As in Alawa's way? It was her decision to go out, did. You see the look on her daughter's face, father? I wish not those eyes for you. His father walks closer. I just talk with the old guard. They're thinking about breaking away and starting a different camp called Alawa's Way just to mock you. You asked of me to lead, father, and I did. I asked of you to help, and I did, father. You will always be my son. But I choose people over this ego of yours. What you call ego I call protection, says Ferb before leaving the tent. On the other side of the camp, Lo-Sha bathes her mother and prep her for her funeral. Listel walks in. She looks beautiful, says Listel. Lo-Sha smiles. It's funny. I said the same of you to her. I met her once, when your father was alive, says Listel. They looked so happy. She put a flower in my ear and told me I looked like a goddess. Logel walks in unexpectedly, assuming Lo-Sha was alone, and stop. Is it mother or us that troubles your sight? Asked Lo-Sha. Neither, says Logal. I was worried about your well-being but didn't know you had company. As Logal turns and leave, Lo-Sha asks him a question. You remember what father used to say to you back when he gave you your first dagger to hunt with? Logal turns and says, a blade without purpose cuts in all direction. Lo-Sha looks at him, then back to their mother and cleanse her face with water. Yes, purpose, says Lo-Sha. Listel knew what Lo-Sha meant, though Logal didn't. Many have many purposes. It's what life expects of us to live with, says Listel. Lo-Sha says, mother would agree with you. Logal finally catches on. And you? Says Logal. My purpose has abandoned me, I fear, says Lo-Sha. Listel stands up and walks towards Lo-Sha. I do not believe this, my heart will not. Logal agrees with her. Lo-Sha stays quiet for a bit while grabbing a comb and combing her mother's hair. She looks peaceful, says Lo-Sha. Logal walks outside and Listel sits back down. Salt makes it to his tent to see his friends chewing on rabbit meat. Stars in the sky of you, my leader, says the dusty gent. And water pray for you, my friend, says Salt. The others laugh while the center person perks his eyes a bit, not expecting to come back. I felt ease to know your protection is mine as well at night. Salt stops at his tent. We all protect each other, so what's it to you? The gent breezes by Salt and says, looks like to me this day was Ferb's day. Salt was but a bit of a stem on a tree. The others again laugh. Seems to me I'm not as careful of friends with you, says Salt. I don't mean to dig a ditch and bond, just to say I liked you better, not as someone's shadow, my good sir. Salt looks at him and says, if this is just of you, I'll deal. The gent come in closer, we know more. Share my night less inquiry. The gent and the others walk off with Salt looking at his tent, then his sword before going in. Salt goes to Ferb before he sleeps and asks him if he could plan the next expedition. Ferb, says Salt in a whisper outside his tent. What, says Ferb? May I sail the stars with you a bit, if soul desires, says Ferb as he gets up from his tent. When Ferb comes out the other side half-dressed, he says, what nightmares you hold. Have you decided the next tour, says Salt. Looking in his mind before answering, no, says Ferb. Perfect. I have a great idea for the next gathering. Ferb, still half-asleep, tells him to divulge. We all use white flame as we strike the tree new at the same time. This guarantees more than one to bring back. We'll belly full the camp for months, says Salt. Ferb is now fully woke with disagreement. Salt, the error in this overwhelms me, says Ferb. Salt looks perplexed. I do not understand. Ferb goes on to say, the day tells of not knowing the full extent of this power. That can mean untruthful when in darkness. And if reliable, the balance of dining is gone, for there won't be enough left to reproduce for empty bellies, says Ferb. Salt takes this not as advice but as negativity. Thinking they are done, Ferb says, for now we are blessed in food. Support for Lo-Sha is what's best now, says Ferb. Salt doesn't feel the same but masks his true feelings with a sigh. What are you if not a wise one, Ferb, says Salt as he places his hand on his shoulder. Ferb tells him to defeat his quarrels with sleep and they'll rejoin in the morning. Salt agrees and leaves. In the morning, fire is prepped for spear lighting. Children are herded together with parents. The center left of the camp is where all meet. Lo-Sha dressed her mother in the best cloak she could sew. Listel at her side, they walk as hunters carry Alawa on their shoulders to her plot in the ground. Amongst these is Logal and Ferb. Wolves haul in the back, unsure of the gathering or feeling neglected altogether. They stop and lay Alawa in the ground. Her fellow hunter, who had a dealing with Logal earlier, stands by her plot and waits till fully placed to lay her bone sword beside her. Go be with the gods, my dear, he says before walking away. Logal says to her, tell father I haven't failed him by you. I haven't failed him by sister, and I'll see you both when it's time. Listel guides Lo-Sha to her mother. Lo-Sha bends and gazes her mother. Listel steps back a bit, giving her space. I hear the gods welcome all who come through their doors with hugs and smiles, she says, and then pulls out a small carved wooden charm. I kept it clean as you wanted, mother. You told me this will chase my fears away for rest. I now say the same for you. She then put it in her mother's hand and ball her fist as to kept grip of it. Lo-sha backs away and Suma walks up to say a speech of honor. All of our destinies have endings, this does not make empty or paths. It makes full your days. Alawa, says the witch. Soon. We wish your journey to the next world complete. All kneel as the spears are lit with fire and the dirt covers Alawa. After the funeral, Fo and Hod goes to Ferb who's storing the meat in cold water seals. They have in their custody a smaller man of dirt and rags. We have evil play and trickery amongst us, says Hod. Ferb looks confused. Hod pushes the lad. Tell him what you told us. Salt went to the sky fields alone, says the man. Ferb says that's suicidal. How you know this? He told me before the funeral. Why not tell others? Because of the long faces, sorry, says the man. Ferb drops the meat to grab his sword. Did he say anything else? Something about feeding the camp by himself, says the man. This makes Ferb remember their conversation the night before. Good gods, he's going to use white flame, claim Ferb. Ferb rushes. Fo and Hod follows with Fo saying knew he would doom us. Menok joins after seeing them rush. I see restlessness in the future, says Menok. Foolish begets foolish, says Fo. Logal dries off from a barrel bath when they pass his tent. Plenty to eat, why rush, he says. No time to explain, join us if you are willing, says Hod. Lo-sha says she will. Logal says, but what of your well-being? Lo-sha says a blade without purpose cuts in all directions while grabbing her sword. She looks back at Listel who nods with approval knowing she needs it. As they leave camp, Tumla joins. I've been waiting, she says. Out in the forest, Menok says he only have enough rabbit for the way there. Lo-sha asked what it means. Raw tree new on the way back, says Fo. Tumla says raw bird is better. Lo-sha looks disgusted. Chapter 5, The Lurker in the Forest. The night is quiet and the camp setup is finished, but Tumla is not sleepy. Ferb asks her if she's okay while she stares in the forest. The Speechless has been following us since noon. Ferb asks her why she didn't tell him. She says she was afraid he would turn back. Then she breaks her sight from the forest, looking at him saying, I was afraid I'd miss my chance. Can we kill it, asks Ferb. Tumla touches her sword and say, with these new powers maybe. I honestly don't care at this point. Ferb says, for our team, can you pretend? Tumla says, very well. The trees are our best chance. It can't move its neck up, she says. Ferb puts his hands together and says thank you and then asks. How much time we got? Tumla says 30 to 40 minutes before we're in its sight. When Ferb tells the rest. Menok says first it comes for Crayfles, now us. Great, Ferb explains the plan. Ferb says to use white flame with swords from the top of the trees at the same time. Fo says isn't that what you warned the others not to do? Ferb says they didn't wait to learn about daytime. Everyone is up in the trees when it's time later on. The group notices a tall cloaked person walking through the forest. But it's too tall and wide to be one person. There must be 3 people on top of each other. Plus it makes no sound of footsteps or twigs in the forest. It's smoothly gliding through things. There are no arms or hands. Just a big dark face with no eyes. Its bend suggests no vertebral as it sniffs through Menok's belongings at his rabbit meat. Probably what it feasts on when it has nothing else to eat. Ferb and everyone watches slowly from the branches. Out of nowhere they hear a baby voice come from it. What is that? It says while looking through Ferb's belongings. Ferb gives the signal which has everyone withdraw their swords very slowly. Everyone watches for Ferb's hand. He is adjacent the others so they could all see him in the trees across from them. 5. The tall one says again with a baby voice, what is that? 4. Sweat on Hod's bra falls to his eye. 3. Fo tightens her hand around both blade handles. 2. The tall dark person shakes its lower part as if it's happy with what it found in Fo's things. 1. Tumla target locks with sword in hand. Everyone jumps out the tree. The speechless bends down and shifts its face to the back of its head and says, "Peek-a-boo," in a motherly voice as a dark hand comes from the darkness of it. It wraps around Foe and swings her to the ground faster. She jumped, hot in white flame slashes at it, cutting the arm off, freeing Foe. Ferb is kicked from the back by an arm from its back. Menok is grabbed by the throat and choked. Losha and Logal are grabbed by the legs by another set of arms. They are swung across the forest, hitting tree limbs. Out of view of the rest, Tumla swings, and like a flush of water the speechless dodges her and says again in the motherly voice, "I see you," and head butts her extremely fast, knocking her sword away. Pod catches its attention as Ferb fixes himself in the back, brushing off leaves. "Come here, you to me. You sore-eyed beast, give me your best move," he says with his sword ready to swing. In a male's voice it says, "Run, for your life," and reaches for Hod with 12 arms wrapping around his entire body. Ferb comes underneath, cutting away at the arms, but they keep producing themselves as soon as he cut. While cutting, Ferb doesn't see a bottom arm slowly wrapping around his foot. It whisks him in the air upside down, dropping his sword and smacking him against a tree, making him dazed and knocked out. Foe Tornado spins herself in the air with her blades to get head-butted by the speechless, while the rest of its body stays in place. Tumla gets up to see her friends either choking, spread out, knocked out, or wrapped up. The speechless turns its head sideways without moving its neck. "Where you go?" it says in a baby voice again. Tumla reaches for her blade only to learn it's far away on the other side of the speechless. "You're silly," it says while giggling like a toddler. Then it goes to head butt her with its head while body in place. Tumla fears it and sticks out her hands. Out of nowhere, a black dark ball of magic with a purple lining comes from her hands and blasts the head off the speechless. The hand vines fall, releasing all her friends. Tumla is weak and falls to the floor after this. Ferb gains consciousness to see light come out of its neck. Then silhouette of humans walking out. They light of the trees with their light. Foe says, "They're the souls it has taken from us, women." Men and children pour out of its neck, walking through the forest, to rock. Tumla lower her head on bender knee. Menok, holding his neck, gazes at the vast number. And then a very small one breaks from the group, waving his hand in excitement. "Mommy," the soul says as it runs towards Tumla. Tumla raises her head. "Grapha," she says. The soul walks up and hugs her. "Mommy, where you go?" She holds him one last time. "I went nowhere, baby. I saw you by the wall and no more." Tumla breaks into tears. "I know, baby, Mommy was worried sick." "It's okay, I still love you." The soul kisses her on the cheek and falls back in line as she reaches out. "Grafa," she calls to him as the light of the souls fade into the forest. Tumla cries a cry she deserved but never allowed herself. She freed her son. She knows he is doing well now. Logal and Losha walks out of nowhere to see the other rising slowly. Menok is the only one to see the tears of the female warrior. Everyone else is perplexed. Its body still headless confirms to Ferb his plan worked. Hod says, "You still have any of that rabbit meat?" Menok says if none was taken by whatever that was as he looks through his bag. Menok learns that all is gone and throws his pouch on a log. "Damn to starve we are," he says. Tumla whips her tears, saying bird meat it is. Foe asks if she's alright. Tumla turns to her and says, "Once I have bird meat, yes." Foe looks at her knowing something else is going on but dare not bother. Ferb says we'll hunt for bird in the morning. "Let's bury this," says Hod, holding his nose to its smell. The next morning, the team catches a few birds and luckily a couple of rabbits. It takes a lot of patience to catch rabbit because of its size. It can run between your legs and be gone forever if you don't strike at the right time. Midday, Losha, paying attention to Ferb last time, feels the breeze of the draft and knows they are but an hour away from Sky Fields. "We're close," she says. Ferb feels the breeze and says she's right. Foe asks what's the plan. Ferb says we find Salt and get him back. Foe looks disinterested in the plan as it lacked creativity. Logal says, "And what of the tree new?" Tumla says grabbing one would stop people complaining about my bird meat. Ferb says after we find Salt. Hod say he's probably dead right now. Ferb tightened his jaw knowing Hod could be right but says, "Family don't leave family." Logal looks impressed that he quoted him. They walk on. Once out in the field they crawl on their stomachs as not to startle the herds of Trinu. It's an hour before dark. They are now dangerously always from safety near the trees. Out in the open they look for sights of Salt. "I don't see him anywhere," says Hod. Foe says, "This would be the only time I want for him not to shut up." Ferb says, "Keep looking." Lo Shah says to Tumla, "What if the fireflies come back?" Tumla, not as bitter as she normally is, says, "Stay nearby and I'll protect you." Lo Shah is floored at the newfound generosity of Tumla. Far up further than the crew signals them to stop. Everyone does. Menok says, "My neck can't take rendering speechless from another speechless." Ferb says he sees Salt's blade laying in the grass and a knife trail leading out of the sky fields into Shadowfoot. Logal says, "Things darker than dark and bitter lay in those lands." Lo Shah says she doesn't feel comfortable with what she thinks is next. Tumla says to Menok, "I didn't see Crayfuls coming out of the speechless, did you?" Menok doesn't answer but looks worried before talking to Ferb. "What are we to do?" says Menok. Ferb says, "Follow the trail just like before. We have to find Salt." Ferb looks at his team and tightens his jaw. "Okay, new plan. Everyone go back and I'll do this myself." Foe says this is suicidal. Ferb says, "I know, but I couldn't leave him." "I wouldn't leave you." This makes the crowd silent. But slowly they all agree and continue to crawl towards Shadowfoot until they are out of range of the tree new enough to get up and walk. Chapter 5, A Dark Leader. Daylight Cave. Salt crawled out in the sky fields alone. And gets close enough to a tree new. "This kill will be sweet," he says as he ready his sword by a tree new. It's further from the herd he figures, which would give him an advantage. When Salt pulls his sword he immediately goes into white flame again, waking the tree new in a panic. Salt manages to stab one in the stomach. This must have not cut anything seriously because the beast just runs before letting out a cry. Salt holds on the sword as the stampede starts. Salt's feet brush in the grass. They cut from the speed of the bull, but Salt dare not let go or he's trampled by the remaining tree new in the back. The tree new seems to break away from the others in running. 10 minutes of running seems to weaken Salt's arm, but he holds on. But as Salt fears, the tree new is now on rocky land. Salt has now entered what he has nightmares about. Salt is now in Shadowfoot. His feet hurt more, so he lets go. Salt rolls away and pulls out his dagger, fearing the land already knows he's there. As Salt regains his composure he sees the tree new disappearing in the distance while still running. It's slightly hotter over here, he notices. This heat isn't from all the action just now. Salt starts to walk what he thinks is back to the sky fields. He lifts himself up over boulders. Looks at the moon in the sky for a guide. Looks in the distance all around him just in case he's followed. He can't make out where from, but he's seen and water but no rivers nor lakes nearby. Salt jumps over another boulder only to miss the ground and slide down a hill a bit. He stabs his dagger, but it seems not to grip any rock in sight to stop him. No boulder close enough to grab. Salt sees a pile of plated rock gathered near an opening in a boulder. He's headed directly towards it. He knows he's not going to miss it and balls up a bit to brace for impact. Salt flies inside of the boulder only to spring midair. All of a sudden there's enough light to see around him as he grab hold a dangling rock. He grips it and look down to find the fall isn't so bad. He lets go and fall onto a rock bridge. He looks behind him to disappointment. The hole from which he came is too far up to go back. Salt dusts himself off, only one way now. "Damn you, Ferb," he says as he turns and walks forward. Salt walks for an hour only to find it seems he's go in a downward not straight line. The ceiling at first causes him to hunch over and then to gaze at it as it's as high as Skyfield sky. The air is now cold as there seems to be a lot of space not filled around him. Not as hot as when he was on the tree new. The light now dims a bit but in a slow blinking motion. Salt sees the bottom of the bridge. It leads to a rock formation of a small castle-like building. The light is coming from the top room. Salt now can't help his curiosity. He doesn't even think of danger and shoulder his dagger walking down the rock bridge. Salt gets to the castle and walks in. It's dark now and he's perplexed. Then he sees the light coming from some steps. He looks up. That must lead to the top floor. He walks up it, but the steps are uneven. He makes it to the top steps to see a beautiful fountain sitting in them. "Who are thee?" Salt says with his hand nervously tapping his dagger. "We are thee," says the mysterious twin. "We?" Salt says. The mysterious man looks up and has Salt's exact face. "Indeed, my friend." He walks closer. Salt draws his dagger. "Not another stroll here, you," he says. The twin stops. "No judgment for me, my good sir, I only aim to please," the twin says. The twin looks at his own dagger and smacks it to the ground. It then looks up at Salt. See, Salt is still confused. "Why we steal looks, my mother but only one son," says Salt, Faden's sister of Silas, daughter to Dielof and Solvens. As it walks closer, "Back away," says Salt. "You pry my heart, thy names of kin," says Salt. "I am thy thoughts, fears, wants and possibilities." The twin points to the purple fountain. "But a drink away the ease of demons that torture your mind." Salt looks at the fountain. For a second he forgets the other in the room. He can hear it call to him. The twin walks behind him as Salt slowly walks to the fountain. "You of the white flame as others. You are far more worthy a leader to guide. Friend who grace you hardship not what he seemed." Salt stops at the fountain. The twin still behind him reaches over his shoulder, but he is relaxed now. Hand in water, it disturbs his reflection from the fountain. "Drink. Drink. I give you white flame as day flame witness you. Night is not the only gate to oneself. You can see in mind these things I promise. In heart you are leader." Salt looks back at his twin. "The water's fine," his twin says. Salt turns again to the water and fits his face there and drinks. A mess of water at his feet, the twin doesn't mind at all. It slowly vanishes, leaving Salt in the top room alone. He doesn't stop drinking. Ferb is the first to step on the smothering rocky plains. The others with swords drawn follow behind. "This is where Crafels had his last with the speechless," says Loshaw. Menok looks at Tumlaw and says, "I don't remember seeing a soul that looks like what I know of Crafels come out back there." Logel says, "Perhaps more this beast comes." Foe says, "I do not wish the cost to such knowledge." Ferb says, "No sightseeing then we seek together. We get Salt. We leave." After wandering around, Foe says, "We're lost. I know the shape of this boulder." Menok glances at it for a second and then says, "Nightmare, my realm I know as well." Ferb says to keep moving, to change up strategy but not to war cry his name. At that very moment Ferb's very own name is war cried. "I said no war cry," says Ferb as he glances back to his group. They all look confused. "We nor said a word." Ferb looks around and says, "Get down." They all huddle around a boulder with swords drawn. "Guys, it's me." Out of the shadow walks up Salt, but off. Something is different about him. His eyes seem heavy. Skin more tan, and an echo in his voice slightly. "Where have you been?" says Hod. Salt smiles to his concern. Salt relaxes himself. "I've been away learning myself." Ferb squints his eyes. "Salt, you're not yourself." This seems to upset Salt. "I'm more of myself this day," he says. When this happens, everyone notices Salt's eyes glow purple for a split second. Tumlaw says it out loud, "The ways of the shadows walk him our way." Menok points his sword. "What took you to Crafels?" Salt laughs. "You were always hysterical," as he slowed down his closeness. Ferb put his hand behind him to signal to his team not to move. "Salt, friend," again angers Salt. "Friend. You dare," says Salt as his eyes glare again. "Are you the keeper of bonds now? The order from which all came, we want to help Salt. You seek servitude. You pity my presence, my essence." Salt now breaks from directing his remarks at Ferb. He laughs. "Guys, do with your eyes purpose and see." As he point to Ferb, still with a joy-able banter, "See, It is he who mock our blessing. I do no deeds Salt, he will hint at stature, knowledge. And courage great of him absence in you he feels. Tumlaw looks at a boulder on top the boulder behind Salt. What you want of me Salt says Ferb, naive in leadership I am, you are right Salt. Foe knows Ferb agreeing with Salt is for mercy to be spared. They fear what they haven't seen of Salt. He's right, his ego fills the very air all breathes, says Foe. Knowing she's just going along Ferb still feels attacked but masks it. Ha doesn't seem to want to go along with the talks of egos to praise Salt's ego but doesn't speak just look impatient. Salt hovers a bit in the air with smaller rocks on the ground floating. See what we are made of, the fountain speaks to me. Menok is confused as no trace of water in sight. Lo Shah, I can gift to you mother's correction. Lo Shah budges a bit until Ferb holds her back. A tear falls from Salt's eye. What's wrong? Do you not want to be God in daylight, not a night peasant? Menok finally brave his words. What the gods meant for us I will not share with you. Salt looks at Menok. Ferb brings his attention back to him. This fountain tells you it can bring flame in the daylight? Redirected back at Ferb, with anger on his face Salt says. It shows me. What does it want with you Salt? Ask this to see evil, says Ferb. Tumlaw target locks herself the top boulder. Just like your tongue to doubt me, Salt is slowly smoking in purple air, and his eyes are now full purple. Last offer, a chance as gods or a chance as worshippers, Salt says as he hovers higher. Tumlaw doesn't seek counsel and Ferb for her next move. She hoists her blade Salt's way. His head turns missing it. Salt was close to the top boulder. Tumlaw's sword place inside the boulder. Tumlaw uses the magic she used on the speechless to grab her blade back and bring the boulder down on Salt. Everyone backs back. The blade goes by Ferb and Logel who now knows of her newfound power. Ferb says has he gotten to you already? Tumlaw says if this were true why my animosity directs at him. Foe says no matter we have no time for sails and stars. The ground shakes a bit and the boulder makes a small crack at the top. Leave says Hod which shocks even Tumlaw. They run back as the boulder breaks into pieces. Salt flies up in the air. You have appealed to death. Shameful you, I could have saved you from him. Salt raises his hand and all the boulders lift around them. Now everyone white flames with swords drawn. I'm more than this white devil now. He swings his arm down and the boulders come down toward the group. Their white flame brightens and protect them as their blades slice through the rock like meat. Still inflamed Ferb says, last chance Salt, stop this madness. Salt says, do this for me and blasts at Ferb with a purple energy light. This put Ferb's light under stress and slightly hurts him. Lo Shah throws her blade Salt's way. It stabs Salt but he does shake to it. The backwards lover. I've never thought kind of you, and pushes the blade out of him and into her. It stabs her hard and Logel screams. Lo Shah. Now do you see, with me is the only salvation. Says Salt as hovers closer. Join me and sister is saved, says Salt. Foe tornado spins her blades in white flame from the side knocking Salt into a larger stack of boulders. Salt loses focus but get up and sends 1,000 tiny rocks from the ground to at Foe who doesn't dodge as fast. Tumlaw jumps from another boulder and flip kicks Salt. Menok runs into him before he could react. Hod throws his spear and misses Menok nailing Salt back to the boulder. Tumlaw gets up and says move. She clenches her hands together making her dark ball of energy. Menok sees this and moves. She shoots her energy at Salt. He blocks it and redirects it back at her. Ferb rushes him off his feet again. His white flame is large, bigger than the others. He grabs his sword. Salt gathers many pieces of small rock and forge it into a sword and blocks Ferb's swing. Okay kids. The parents are talking says Salt as he barricade them in a rut of rock. Ferb say, why my friend looks down our friendship with haze. Salt swing S back. They go in a tit-for-tat blade exchange while talking. You always seem yourself above me. Lies says Ferb. You wouldn't even let me decide the mission, Ferb answers back. Because that strategy would give everyone their last days like Alawa. Salt creates another rubble blade and says, "What, lighter than you?" This confuses Ferb enough to slightly drop his blade. We gag ourselves with meaningless tongues. You know this. Salt doesn't mercy him friendship and slice at his arm. Ferb kneels a bit, Salt's blade now at Ferb's head. "I never meant to wound my respect for you," says Ferb. Salt walks closer. "You can't foresee much for a leader." "My dear leader," says Salt, "here I am with nothing but regret and sorrow. Don't do this, Salt." Salt says nothing and the sound of daylight energy consumes his blade as it stands before Ferb. "Can I ask you something, Ferb?" says Salt. "Why do you cherish to lead?" Salt says. Ferb looks at him no longer with anger but with emotion. "I only look to serve all. My ego may be at times bigger than me, but my intention seeks well-being." Salt's eyes eases a bit, his pupil barely shows. He shakes his head. "Lies. Lies you look to enslave all near you," says Salt. Ferb asks Salt, "This fountain seems to share my goals, Salt." Salt, not knowing who to trust, tells Ferb to stop. "Shut up." Salt raises his blade. "Enough with this calamity," and goes to swing when Ferb gets up and with purple energy engulfing him rushes and shoulder knocks Salt far into the plate of rocks by the opening in the boulder. Out of nowhere the purple is gone. Salt is buried in rubble when he looks around him. "Where is this, Ferb?" "Help me," says Salt as he slowly reaches out. Ferb gets up and shakes rocks off him. He walks towards Salt hoping him well. Salt says, "Please, this is large. I'm falling." Ferb reaches his hand and immediately Salt's eyes turn purple, but before Salt can act, Ferb kicks him and jumps back. The rock plates shake and fall into themselves, taking Salt with it. "Ferb," Salt says, "ask he disappear." His voice pitches up and out, then down and demon-like.
Ferb.
It echoes, "Ferb, Ferb, Ferb, Ferb," then hymns. "Ferb," them linger. "Ferb," before stopping. Ferb catches his breath. "Goodbye, old friend," says Ferb. He turns to his team and with white flame slices the rock fortress before day breaks. He sees everyone hovered around Losha. "Mother awaits me," says Losha. Ferb runs to them. "How is she?" Blood falls from her mouth. "Brother," says Losha, "do not fear, I who ended father's pack." Logol says, "Nonsense you hear. Do away with this tongue," Fo says. "Maybe some of my flour soup will do." Losha stops her from reaching in her pouch. "This will not, my friend." Ferb asks Losha, "What do you need?" Losha says, "What you already gave me." Purpose as she caresses her brother's face, his tears pour. "You can't be like this. No you." Losha closes her eyes slowly, then reopen and stares blank. Hod's bottom lip shakes and he cracks a tear. Menok looks up to the sky. "Not again," he cries. Ferb, shaken with sadness, walks slowly up to Logol and says, "I'm sincerely sorry," while rapping and placing his hand on his shoulder. Logol looks at Losha. "I never told you that I envy the flow of emotion from you. That I too wish for this with another. I don't care who weds you. I only care they cherish. I have no other to seek. Mother, father, and now sister. No bond for me. This life is not worth without. Hear me, sister. My heart will always crave you kindness." Logol says this and press on Los's chest. Out of nowhere a white light comes over it. Tumla looks with shock. Ferb, who looked away as Logol talked, looks back. Logol doesn't break trance and closes his eyes. "Stay, my sister," he says as he glows. Losha's chest pokes up as she takes in breath. She coughs and Hod rushes. "What in the name of the gods?" Ferb looks at Logol. "How, my friend?" Logol is still not taken back. He holds his sister. "The blade wound is no more," Menok says. "I'm not convinced. We aren't gods now." The crowd mood changes. Ferb poaches his sword and comes to Losha holding her hand. "You always sneak up on me like I say." She looks at him and says, "It's what Los do." Back at camp, the crew brings back another Trinuu and the crowd rejoice of their return. Losha's shoulder on Logol as she walls. Faden walks up. "Salt, salt," she says. Ferb looks to her. We seek for him nothing we saw. Fearing her heart not to bear more, Fei Den, the mother of Sult, looks down and tears up. Ferb walks up to her and hugs her. He was a dear friend of mine, dear leader in his own. A day later Suma, the tribe which prays for Sult and say for the gods to look over him. She brings to Ferb and the rest at the tomb for Sult a tall leaf of writing. Fo asks what is this. Suma says, as I'm sure the gods agree, all of you deserve this. With Listel resting her head on Losha's chest, Ferb stand up and takes a berry stick and writes him name first. He says to the crowd for Sult, everyone else in the am write their names. Fo walks up to it and see it says, caretakers of Middle Forest and keeper of the night. We are Night Council. She signs her name reluctantly. In the distance a few of the old guard look with disappointment before heading out of camp. This group would later on discover a giant river and name it after the head's grandfather, Diha. They would establish an enclave and name it Alawa's Way. It would not have a leader nor a covenant. The rules would be the way of a hunter and none other, and they would grow a dislike of mid-forest or of the future night tribes. The end.